this time around. Because you said this is like the ending of a trilogy between a short story about war and Tao. And it's funny, sonically, I'm like, I don't know where like the trilogy fits.
Yeah.
But I think probably themes-wise is where it feels like this is really the closing of some kind of chapter. Obviously the name, Start Anew. This really feels like the Shad album that, like, if it were in 05, let's go back in time.
Yeah.
And you said, what does Shad sound like in 20 years? This probably would be the album that I would think of that's like, this is where it's going to evolve to. So I like that this album is kind of called Start Anew because this sound has almost like come back in a sense. And I feel like this is, almost like your training wheels never came off. You always kind of were ready for this. But talk about the trilogy finishing up. Like, where does this story end in your mind?
Yeah, so I guess I'll say a couple things. One, I agree with you in terms of there is a relationship between this and even the beginning of my career. Definitely I think about it thematically with the last couple albums, but there is a connection to the beginning of my career. First album's called When This Is Over. This one's called Start Anew. It's almost like there's a conversation there. And sonically, yes, it does feel also like I'm going back to my roots, kind of like I was saying. Like these are some of the sounds that imprinted on me when I was young and first getting into hip hop. But in terms of the last couple albums, I feel like the way I look at my own catalog is I feel like my first few albums was me telling my story. And I was really compelled and inspired to do that. Like we do in hip hop. It's like a vehicle for us talking about who we are and where we come from and putting those stakes in the ground and saying, this is me. This is what I have to say. And by proxy, these are all the people I represent as well, And then at a certain point, I felt really satisfied with that. And just naturally, my evolution became towards sort of reflecting more on the world and my sense of things as I look out. And less about me and more about this is my sense of things, And that's partly because I told my story a lot. And it was also partly because, man, the world became a very interesting, confusing place.
One way to say it.
You know what I'm saying? So I think both of those kind of worked in tandem and created a situation where the last couple albums have been me trying to sort out what's going on in the world. And so, a short story about a war was me thinking a lot about peace and how difficult peace really is. Always with these albums, even though I'm thinking about the world, I'm thinking about what's going on underneath it all, and a little bit less about the hot button topics. I mean, I'm thinking about those things, but what I'm really commenting on and trying to understand is what's going on. More deeply with all of us, right? So, a short story about a war is really about peace and how hard peace really is. And then Tao is also kind of reflecting on that same thing and just thinking about how, man, we're so disconnected from each other, from meaningful work, from the environment, from our spirits. Like we're just disconnected in so many ways. People talk a lot about the division between people and left and right and that sort of thing, but we're disconnected in a lot of ways.
That's different directions.
In many different ways. And so Tao was about that. And Start Anew is about, the idea behind that was like, man, maybe a lot of these problems, a lot of this disconnection, a lot of this challenge with resolving conflict and finding peace, maybe a lot of it comes down to this human thing of it's hard to confront the ending and it's hard to start anew. So thinking about certain problems, like think about the MAGA movement. Make America Great Again. Well, what's going on with that? A lot of things are going on with that. But one thing that's going on with that is like not being able to accept change.
Yeah. It's like you want things to stay the same.
You want things to stay the same or go back to some imagined past. It's like, when has that ever happened? It's a physical impossibility.
I think it's like a human...
But it's a human desire.
But it's almost like Earl had a quote in an interview where he said, I thought I was above the human experience. And I totally resonated with that because there are times where I felt that about certain things. It's like, I'm too good to feel this emotion over here that doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
But I think the idea of people not wanting things to change is inherent in people so much. And everyone has their own version of what they don't want to change more. Like I've always said, when it comes to parents and children, the greatest, I guess, part of the relationship is when the parents can accept the kids as an equal. And it's like sometimes you don't want that to happen, you know? And you see sometimes this shit when you meet people and they meet their parents and you go, oh. Like I've had that with my friends where, you know, I've known them for a decade. I meet their parents and I go, oh, the math is mathing here. So you're talking about change. It's like, it's that part of everyone that is so deep that we can't change it. And then I forget the name of the writer, but he talks about kind of like the happiness quota you have for yourself. When I always link the happiness quota to change, where it's basically the idea is you're used to living a certain way. And so if being a certain amount of happy is outside of that, your body's gonna kind of regulate itself to like go back to what you're used to because the happiness is so uncomfortable. So the goal is to make this version of happiness so comfortable that you don't have to revert out of it. So
you don't have to self-sabotage or whatever.
Exactly. So I think what you're talking about is everyone feeling their own versions of that in life and not interacting with other people.
That's it. So it's like, again, I'm looking at what's going on in the world and there's all these hot button topics, but I'm real curious about, well, what's going on underneath it though, right? And so MAGA is one example. Another example I bring up is like climate crisis. Okay. We all know there's an issue. We see the wildfires. We see all this stuff. So what's the challenge? Well, the challenge is we know we need to do things differently, but we don't know how. Or we're scared to try because it involves stepping into some unknown, right? What if I can't use my car as much? What if I can't, you know, what is this going to mean? It's going to mean something different. It's going to mean change, and change is hard.
There's an admission of guilt there too.
And
of like the way I've been doing this the whole time has contributed to this huge problem. You know, so to look at yourself and say, I've done wrong here, but I'm not a bad person. That takes a kind of a personal nuance that some people don't have.
Listen, it's hard. Self-awareness is really hard. You know, I feel like what I'm trying to say with Start Anew is, I'm not trying to point fingers because I'm saying, like you said, it's an inherent challenge for human beings to say I'm sorry. To change course. To step into the unknown. This is a inherent human challenge, but we can do it. And in fact, we have to.
We don't have a choice.
We don't have a choice.
We literally don't have a choice.
No.